getting back to the music player application that we have implemented earlier, let's examine a couple of features about this music player application, a couple of behavioral aspects of this music player application to understand some further extensions that we can do to the music player to enhance its usage. When we go back and look at the music player application, we see that when you start playing the music, the song continues to play, and then as you notice that the seek bar will advance appropriately and then continue to play from that point onwards. Now, suppose we quit the application at this point by hitting the back button. You notice that the song is still continuing to play in the background. Now, if we have to get back to the application, you notice that we have to have a way of getting back to the application through using the apps button up here to invoke the music player user interface. And furthermore, we notice that if you now the music this particular song being played has stopped at this particular location. Let's go ahead and select a new song, say, and then play that particular song. And now we notice that if we stop the song and then quit the music player application completely, that is including removing the background. Now, when you come back and restart your music player application, normally when you use music players on your mobile device, you do notice that when you restart your music playing application, it will come back to display the last song that you were playing and at exactly the location where you stopped the last song that you were listening to on your device. Okay. Now, looking at our music player application, if you restart our music player application, we notice that the application doesn't reinitialize itself back to the state where we left the application. Instead, it always goes back to that one single starting song that we used within our application. Now, how do we enhance this music player application to enable us to stop the application, maybe even turn off the device, and then later on when we turn on the device and then restart the application, we would come back to remember exactly the point at which we paused or stopped the song that we were listening to the last time. Now, to help us do this, Android has this ability to store some amount of information within your application using the shared preferences approach, where we use key value pairs to store small amounts of data within your application. Now, the shared preferences is very useful for storing information like, for example, the user settings, or in this music player example, we can remember the last song that was being played and exactly the position at which the last song was stopped previously, so that when the music player is restarted again, we will restore the music player to exactly the same location where it was stopped previously. Okay. Furthermore, we notice that if you're playing a music song and then you happen to quit the activity and go back to the home screen, or even hit the back button and then quit the activity, the music continues to play in the background. Now, if you want to again get back the user interface, the only way of getting back to the user interface screen is by clicking on the apps button and then going back to the music player and then restarting it, re-invoking the activity at that point. Now, normally we can take advantage of another feature that Android framework provides called as notifications, which can be very effectively used to remember or to be able to get back to the activity, the user interface activity in this particular case, very easily from our application. So these two are the new features that I'm going to add to the MusicPlayer application. The shared preferences to remember the last song that we were listening to and the exact location where we stopped the last song. And in addition, making use of notifications in order to enable us to easily get back to our MusicPlayer's user interface within our application. So how do we go about doing this in practice? Let me pause the music playing at this moment. We will reopen our MusicPlayer.java file and then also the MusicController file. These two files are the primary locations where we're going to introduce some modifications in order to enable us to remember where we paused the song last time. Now, getting back to MusicPlayer.java, what we would make use of is the shared preferences in order to remember some of the information. So as you recall, shared preferences allows you to save information in the form of key value pairs within your application. So to introduce the shared preferences to your application, let's recall that when the music player is started, at the point that the music player is started, you're going to come into the music player's start method. In the music player start method, when you enter, you want to be able to remember certain pieces of information within the music player. Now we want to keep this information within the music player class itself, so that when the application is being used, all the information related to playing back of the music is stored in one single place. Sorry, to do this, we will get to our music player's start method and then introduce some variables here to remember the information. So let me recall some information that we have already stored within our application. We remember that we have stored the names of the files that we have, the MP3 files that we have included within the application, and this we store in a string array within our application. So I'm going to construct a construct the array that contains the names of the files, the two files that I've included within my application. In addition, I'm going to introduce a new piece of information here, and instead of storing the song in the M song here, instead I will simply say I will introduce a new method called as getSongInfo, and then I will pass it the information of the song parameter that I'm getting to my start player. Now inside the getSongInfo method, I'm going to retrieve all the information about the song that I need to initialize my music player with. Okay, how do we implement this getSongInfo method? So as you see, it is complaining about this getSongInfo method being not defined. So let me go ahead and create the getSongInfo method here. So as you see, the getSongInfo method is used primarily within this particular class. So I am going to put all the information inside in this particular class here. So I'm going to relabel this parameter as index. So this is the song index that is coming into my method. Inside this method, I'm going to collect all the information about the song that I need to play. So to collect the information about the song, I'm going to introduce another variable here. Get resources, and then I have the string array which stores the names of all the songs, which I have already created earlier. I had shown you this particular array earlier. Now, what I'm going to do is recall that I have two variables within my MusicPlayer class that keeps track of the current song being played and the title of the current song being played. The two variables are mSong. So I'm going to initialize that to the index variable that I have just received as my parameter for this method, and then I'm going to initialize the mSong title variable that I have declared earlier from the array song list array that I have created. Now this mSong title variable is not part of my definition earlier, so I'm going to introduce a class field called as mSong title up here, and then I'm going to now when you introduce that, I'm going to set it to null to begin with. So let me move this particular definition right next to the mSong variable, because these two are interrelated, so I'm going to keep them together. And getting back to my getSongInfo method that I was implementing earlier. Okay, so now I have the two pieces of information that I require: the song being played, and then also the song title. Now, what I will do is take the help of SharedPreferences in order to store these two pieces of information. In addition, I am also going to remember the position at which I paused the song at any given point of time. Now, in here, I'm going to make use of SharedPreferences and open that. I would get the default shared preferences for this particular context. And then I want to be able to put the information, the song index and the song title, into my shared preferences. So to do that, I will have to edit the shared preferences. So I want the editor. And then I would say the preferences.edit. So that is how I'm going to open the shared preferences editor. Now, if I need to add key value pairs into it, we already have seen in our discussion within the class how I can add information in here. So I'm going to put two pieces of information: the song index and the song title. The song index being a integer variable, so I need to put int, and the key for this is song ID, and the value that I'm going to put is mSong. So that stores the information of the song, and also The second piece of information that I'm going to store is put the string value. I'm going to say the string value's key is song title, and the value is. So these two pieces of information I'm going to store inside my preference editor, and once I have stored them, I'm going to commit the changes that I've just made into my shared preferences. So this way, I would remember to store the information about the song that I have my music player has just been initialized in there. Okay, now getting back to my application up here. In addition, when I first start my music player, I want to initialize the first song that I'm playing within my music player. So in here, I am going to extract the information that I need for my music player to be initialized. So this information, I'm going to initialize it inside my set context method that I have implemented earlier. Now, this is the method where I am going to initialize the context for my music player. So this method is called from my service, and the service passes its context information to the music player so that the music player can make use of the service's context to store information. So only after the context is initialized, then thereafter I can get in and modify information within my music player class. So here I'm going to first I'm going to again fetch from the strings.xml file where I have declared the song titles. So I'm going to create an array of titles of the song. I would get resources dot get string array, and then the ID is r dot array dot songs. So this string array stores the titles of the songs that are enclosed within my music player application already. So remember, we stored these two songs in the raw folder of our music player application. So in here, I'm going to retrieve the information about the song that I have already stored in my shared preferences. To do that, I need to get hold of the preference manager get default shared preferences and context. And in addition, I'm going to initialize the two variables mSong to get the information from the shared preferences. All I need to do is to do get int, and then I remember that I have stored two pieces of information with the key values as song ID and song title. So I'm going to retrieve that information. Now, the default value I supply is 0. So which means that if my shared preferences is not yet initialized, then I'm going to retrieve this information from to set it to 0. Now similarly, I'm going to set the mSong title to the string value, which is, if available, should be in the key with the key song title. If it is not available, I would simply initialize it to song list 0. This is the default value, and that's about it. And then after this, I'm going to initialize the song value here, start msong. Okay, so in addition, I also need to remember the position where I paused and the position from which I'm going to resume the song. To enable me to easily get hold of the position information inside my shared preferences, I'm also going to use another variable called as position, where I'm going to store the information about where I paused and where I started, where I should start the song. So to do that, let me introduce two more methods in here called private void save position. So with a parameter position that comes in. Now inside here, I'm going to say shared preferences and edit. So I'm going to just go ahead and copy these two pieces of information of how to open the editor. Okay, after I open that, then I am going to remember the position value. So I'm going to use the key as position, and the value is the parameter that I just received for my function here. Now, just as I save the position, so this save position method will be called within my remaining methods, say for example from reset, pause, or stop, to save the position of the song when it is when the song is paused or stopped or the music player is reset. Okay. In addition, I should be able to retrieve this position information from my preferences, from my shared preferences. So I will introduce another method called getPosition. This getPosition method will return an integer value, which is equal to the position value that I have stored inside my shared preferences. So to do that, I'm going to get a reference to my shared preferences, and after that, the next thing that I'm going to do is from the shared preferences, I'm going to return the position value that I have stored, and the default value will be 0 in this particular case. Now we're going to make use of the save position and get position methods inside our code in order to remember exactly where we pause the program and where we are going to stop the program and so on. So now going back into our code, we remember that within our code, there are several places where we stop and start the music player. So in here, in my start method, remember that I have obtained the song information in there. Now what I am going to in addition do is that I am going to initialize my position variable that I already have with the position value from get by calling the method getPosition, and I will reposition my media player to that position value inside my start method. Now, within the code, there are several different places where I need to remember where I paused the song. Now, for this, remember in the pause, I save the position value. So at this point, I'm going to save the position value. In addition, similarly, within my stop and reset methods also, I will have to remember to share these values. So in here also, I'm going to do save position. The same statement should also be included. In here, when I reset the player, I will save the position as 0 so that the player is reset and so on. So with this change, what we have done now is within my music player, I remember the songs and then reposition the song and so on. Now in my music controller earlier, I was initializing the songs and I was remembering the song information and so on earlier. So I'm going to remove this information. So I'm going to remove the song title and so on. So because all this information, I am tracking it already in my music player class. So I'm going to remove the information from my music controller. So within my music controller, I am going to also, I need to update a couple of locations to remember that I no longer have to remember the song and so on. So the two pieces of information that I was using earlier, the song index and the song title, I can remove both the variables. I will no longer need them within my code. And in addition, what that also means is that I have to go and update my music player inside my onCreate. I no longer need to initialize the music player because this is already done inside my music player class itself. So I'm going to remove that part. And then also my music player's start method is now updated so that it'll have only one piece of information coming in, which is start with int song in here. So in here, what I am going to do is that when I come into the method, I'm just going to return the value, just pass this index value to my start. And these two variables, I am no longer using them, so I'm going to remove those two variables from further consideration. In addition, I'm going to update my start song method to only receive the index value. I no longer need to be passed the song title value in here. So with these changes, my music controller is now ready. Now when I make these changes to my music controller, immediately my music activity is going to also complain. So I am going to also shift this method called current song title from the music controller to the music player class. So I'm going to cut that code and then paste it into my MusicPlayer class. And in here, recall that the song title is tracked in this variable called as mSongTitle. So I'm going to update the code to match that value, and then my MusicController is also now updated. Okay, now what this means is that now I have to go ahead and update my music activity. So within my music activity, I need to update the music activity in a couple of places. Now recall that inside my music activity, I have several locations where I track this information. So in here, I am going to remove this information from the service connected method. Remove this method call from there. I'm going to initialize that value elsewhere within my program. Okay, going down into the code, I also need to update the information at a couple of other places. Now, from my activity, from my own activity result, I have the data. Now, I no longer would need the song title because I am retrieving that within my MusicPlayer class itself. So I will remove that. In addition, when I call my start song, I no longer need to send the song index or the song title value because it is no longer needed within my code. So with those minor changes inside the onActivity result, I still need the song index value because I need to know which song has been selected. So with those changes, let me go ahead and save the changes, and a couple of minor corrections in the rest of the code that we'll cross-check one more time before we test our application. Now, when my song, now recall that earlier I was setting the song title. So what I'm going to do is to come down here, and then when the song is ready to play, then I will set the song title. And remember that I have set the value of I've included a new method called current song title in the MusicPlayer class. So we're going to introduce that value in here. Okay. In addition, within my MusicPlayer, when I updated the code, in here I say media player mContext and then song value. Instead of song, I should actually be referring to the particular song file resource. So I should say mContext get resources and say get identifier, and then here the name would be song file, and I will supply mSong here, and the def type would be raw, and then the default package would be mcontext get package name, and then that should take. After putting the position into my shared preferences, I need to commit the change, and I did not commit the change earlier. So with that particular change, my music player should work correctly. So in addition, in my stop and rewind, before I stop my player, I will first save the current position before I stop my player, both in stop and reset. So with that change, let's go ahead and then test our music player one more time. We would notice that when the music player is quit, it will still remember the position where the music playing was stopped. So let me pause the music at this point. I'm going to quit my music player completely, and then we'll come back and start the music player, and then you should notice that the music player will be reinitialized to exactly the location where it was paused before. Same thing should also work if I quit the music player and then come back in again. I should be able to see that the music player has been positioned to exactly where I stopped previously, and then I can continue listening to the song from that point onwards. So taking advantage of using the shared preferences, we have now figured out a way of saving and restoring my music player at any given point of time. Okay, now the other problem that you noticed is that once I remove my user interface, I don't have any way of easily getting back to the user interface other than the method of clicking on my running apps and then clicking on the music player. Instead, we will take the advantage of making use of my notifications that are supported in Android in order to support easily getting back to the user interface when I